All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little NFL video as we recap week 9 in the NFL. And of course, Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in both spots from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. And this video is also brought to you by Mojo Fantasy. Check that link in the description. I'm loving using Mojo Fantasy. Use that promo code Krug, Krueg, and get up to $100 matched on your first deposit. Mojo Fantasy, and everybody who does it automatically is entered into a drawing to win a Bosa or a Purdy jersey on Thanksgiving night after Niners Hawks from Seattle. All right, let's talk about week 9 in the NFL. Niners had the bye week. It was nice to sit around and watch some of the games. And, one of the things that was really fun to watch was just some of the individual matchups. Let's start with last night's game. The Bengals suddenly look really, really good. They're playing really well, and it would not surprise me to see them win the AFC again this year. Burrow is healthy. And the last couple of weeks, he's been fantastic. Their defense is coming on. And right now, Joe Burrow is, if you said what's the closest thing to Tom Brady in his prime, it's Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow. 348 yards against the Buffalo Bills, 2 touchdowns. 8 of those balls went to T. Higgins for 118 yards. Cincinnati has won 4 in a row. Burrow was 21 of 26 for 220 yards against zone coverage. And man, and then, he did face man coverage on a season high, almost 44% of his dropbacks, and he threw both of his touchdowns against man coverage. So, between the Bengals defense, which has a ton of speed on the back end, Hendrickson and Hubbard, the H brothers coming off the edges, and then Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, running the football with Mixon. They look good. They look good. They might be one of the best teams in pro football right now. They might be the best. In fact, the one thing that's pretty clear coming out of this weekend is the AFC playoffs are going to be absolutely off the hook. Another guy that we got to talk about today, CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud was one of the most impressive players in the entire league yesterday. He's just a rookie. He threw for an NFL rookie record, 470 yards, 5 touchdowns, led the game-winning drive with 46 seconds left like it was nothing, absolutely nothing. And the guy is playing incredible football, and he's real. He's real. He's making, big-time throws into tight windows. What a opening draft and an opening year for D'Amico Ryans. What they've got going on the defensive side of the ball, and then you've got CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Damian Pierce, 2 really good offensive tackles. The Texans are coming. The Texans are absolutely coming, and Stroud was awesome yesterday. He made a couple throws on that final drive that were just into the tightest of tight windows on a frozen rope, and he just made it look very, very easy. Another thing from week 9 is that the 49ers definitely, get a leg up. Not only did they not play, but the Rams lost at Green Bay. Seattle lost at Baltimore. The Cardinals lost at Cleveland. Not only did these teams lose, they combined to score a total of six more points than the Niners, who were on the bye. So if you look at the NFC West by point differential, it's all Niners. Niners are plus 78. Seahawks are minus 4. Rams are minus 26. Cardinals are minus 89. So, not only did the Niners get Chase Young, not only did they get a little healthy, every team in the division lost, and they took over first place inside the division. So, a great weekend if you're a 49er fan for sure. The story of Josh Dobbs, what an incredible year this guy's had. He gets traded to Arizona, early, before the year starts, and replaces Kyler Murray and look pretty good. And then Kyler's coming back, and they've got Clayton Tune, and so they traded him to the Minnesota Vikings. and he goes to Minnesota, doesn't know their offense at all. Kevin O'Connell's got to translate the entire offense. They're mapping out plays mid huddle. They're sitting there on the sidelines trying to coach each other up because he's so new in their system. And Kevin O'Connell calls on Dobbs's ability to handle it, basically handle it all by himself. And the guy's an incredibly smart guy. And he looked great. Didn't, I mean, the guy hadn't taken one snap with the offense, doesn't even know all the names of the guys on his team. He was 20 of 30 for 158 yards and the come from behind touchdown, and the Vikings get the win. I mean, right before he goes into the game for the first time, he learned the team's, 5 snap counts. I mean, just an incredible story. And the Vikings, get a win, and he, led the way, got the game ball. Incredible story, incredible locker room scene after the game. Josh Dobbs, backup of the year, amazing. Phillies Cowboys was an incredible game to watch in the afternoon. Dallas Goedert's now got a fracture in his forearm. He's expected to go on the IR, so he's out at least a month. That may or may not slow down the Eagles. The Eagles just seem like they do whatever they need to do to get a win. Cowboys rolled up 406 total yards. Eagles had 292. Dallas did everything but get the win. And that terrible call against Schoonmaker, the tight end, that was easily a touchdown at the end. Instead, the Eagles wind up getting the win. And the Eagles right now still very much in control in the NFC for that number 1 seed. And Jalen Hurts throws for just over 200 yards. Doesn't throw any picks, though. 2 touchdowns. They sacked him 3 times. The Eagles, aren't necessarily running it all that well. DeAndre Swift had 2.4 yards a carry. Hurts himself had 36 yards. Gainwell's doing good things in small doses. But A.J. Brown continues to produce. He got in the end zone again, 7 balls for 66 yards. And the Eagles, on a day where they, you know, they they struggled at times with Dallas, they still find a way to get the win and improve to 8-1. They're undefeated at home. Niners Eagles, that showdown is looming, and it's going to be good. It's going to be a hell of a game, you would think, when we see Niners Eagles. So, Dallas rolled up yards on the Eagle D, but they couldn't get the win. They couldn't get the win, and that was it. Giants lose Daniel Jones for the season. He's got a torn ACL. Not that they were going anywhere. Miami looks awesome against losing teams. They're 6-0 against teams with losing records, but they've only faced 3 teams all year with winning records, and they've lost all 3 games. So, that really stood out. I mean, to me, the star of this week is still CJ Stroud. I mean, the guy has been unbelievable this year. 14 touchdowns, 1 pick. And, the number 2 pick in the draft throws for 470. And the Texans win 39-37 over Tampa Bay in what was probably the game of the day. And you got to wonder if Carolina, who took Bryce Young at the top of that draft, already has draft remorse for passing on CJ Stroud. The other thing is just how the top of the league right now, who's the best team in pro football? The Eagles have the best record. They're 8-1. The Chiefs got a nice, impressive win over the Dolphins, but it may be the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are 7-2, and Lamar's looking like the MVP of the league right now. And, it's like if Lamar's the MVP and they're running the heck out of it, and they discover this kid, Keaton Mitchell, and they've got this number 1 defense that's, all over the place, and they're really tough to beat at home. And maybe the Ravens. The Ravens were very, very impressive, blowing out a very good Seahawk team, 37-3. Kansas City beat Miami and Munich, or in Frankfurt, I should say, in Germany, 21-14. And you know what? The Chiefs quietly have a very, very good defense. The Eagles are finding ways to win. And so those might be the best teams in football right now, Eagles, Chiefs, and Ravens. Then you've got, Dolphins at 6-3. They're incredibly explosive. The Jaguars, who will host the 49ers next week, coming off the bye, they're 6-2 with Trevor Lawrence and a really good defensive front. Lions are 6-2. Niners are 6-2. Bengals are coming on at 5-3, despite the slow start. Dallas is still 5-3. They choked one away. So, it's a very interesting time to look at the NFL right now because you've got, you don't have any dominant team that we say, oh, they're for sure the best team in football, but you got a bunch of teams all hovered at the top. Kansas City's defense, I think, has been definitely a surprise. They hold Tua Tagovailoa to 193 passing yards. They kept Tyreek Hill out of the end zone, kept him to 62 receiving yards. The Browns defense pitched a shutout yesterday. Deshaun Watson came back, and huge day for Amari Cooper. The Rams didn't have Stafford, so you can kind of forget that game. Packers beat them 20-3. Commanders beat the Patriots. There's a lot of talk that Bill Belichick may wind up in Washington next year, that he may wind up coaching the Commanders. Sam Howell, the rookie from North Carolina, threw for 325 yards in that game. So interesting. And then the Bears rookie Tyson Bagent, the Bears lose to the Saints in the Superdome 24-17, but Tyson Bagent played that game again for the Bears, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 3 picks. And the Saints get the win. Probably the most impressive team was the Ravens, just from the standpoint of Lamar looks like the MVP. They just discovered Keaton Mitchell. They still have Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, OBJ, Rashad Bateman. They now have kind of a requisite amount of offensive weapons, and they've got a great defense that's really good on all 3 levels. The Texans with Stroud was one of the great stories of the day for sure. The Panthers are 1-7. They lose to the Colts again. Bryce Young threw 1 touchdown, but 3 picks. And so they're having second thoughts. Oh, we should probably talk about the Raiders. The Raiders, 30-6. They, all the stuff coming out about Josh McDaniels, that the players went to Mark Davis and complained about Josh McDaniels, and McDaniels, they were saying, hey, we could beat anybody. And McDaniels was like, don't talk bad about New England. And then, it's like Antonio Pierce takes over, and all of a sudden they throw Aiden O'Connell into the mix, and they beat the Giants 30-6. Now, the Giants are bad. The Raiders have more talent. Maybe that was more about the Giants than the Raiders, but Aiden O'Connell, really good-looking rookie quarterback. He was 16-25 for 209, but the Raiders finally ran the ball. 125 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns on the day on the ground. 2 of them went to Josh Jacobs. So Jacoby Myers continues to make plays. Devontae Adams got into the mix a little bit. Trey Tucker had 2 plays, including a 50-yard catch. And, man, Max Crosby has to be talked about. He's probably your defensive player of the year. 8 tackles, 3 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss, 3 hits on the quarterback. The Raiders had 8 sacks in the game. 8 sacks and 9 hits on the quarterback. They wound up getting 2 picks. Amik Robertson and Nate Hobbs both got picks. So good for the Raiders. The Raiders are 4-5. They're in second place in the AFC West, but they chased out the head coach and the general manager. They say Antonio Pierce is going to get consideration for that job. Heck, if he can keep them rolling the way they rolled this weekend against the Giants, maybe he'll get that job. Wouldn't that be something? There's a lot of talk that the Raiders are going to make a big play for Harbaugh. Maybe, what if Antonio Pierce is their guy? Maybe all they need is a leader. There's talent on that football team for sure. Offensive weaponry, they've got some good individual defensive talents. They may have the defensive player of the year in the league. The way Crosby's playing, Jacobs had his first bust out day, and the Raiders, win convincingly over a bad Giants team, but still. And then, of course, tonight we'll get the finale of the week. Chargers 3.5-point favorites against the Jets. Chargers have been disappointing. If Brandon Staley loses this game, does he get fired? They dropped to 3-5, 1-3 on the road. And then there's the Jets. The Jets have a really, really tough defense, and they're rugged. I kind of think the Jets may get it done tonight at home. So who knows? We'll see about tonight. But overall, exciting week 9 around the NFL. If you said who's the best team in pro football, man, who's the best right now? The Eagles have the best record. The Chiefs have Mahomes and a really good defense. The Ravens may have the MVP of the league and maybe a better defense. Um, I mean, it's hard to say. Joe Burrow and the Bengals may be the best team. I don't know who the best team is. I would say I like the way the Ravens and the Bengals look the most. The Ravens have had a really good defense. Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith on that second level. Clowney has helped their defensive front. Justin Matabuke. Kyle Van Noy's playing well for them. Odafe Owe off the edge has got burning speed. They've got guys. Geno Stone had another pick. Marlon Humphrey's a good corner. I mean, they've got that Raven defense. It's hard to know how good the Ravens are because they're so good at home, and they were at home yesterday. But look what they've done to the Lions and the Seahawks over the last few weeks. I mean, just taking them apart. Niners, Ravens on Christmas at Levi's could be one of the games of the year. Could be one of the games of the year. If I had to say who the best teams in football, I'd probably go Bengals and Ravens. A lot of people would go Chiefs and Eagles. There's people in there that still think the Niners are the best team. We'll find out how they rebound against Jacksonville next week. Miami's flashy, but they don't beat good teams. Their O-line's banged up. They look like they're a year away in some ways. Detroit's having a real nice year, but their injuries on the back end to Emmanuel Mosley, that hurts quite a bit. They may be a year away. If you pin me down right now and said, you know what, give me who's the best team in pro football right now, I would probably say the Bengals 1, the Ravens 2. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards right now. I'm leaning towards Bengals 1, Ravens 2. Who's the coach of the year? I'm going to say it's DeMeco Ryans of the Texans. I think DeMeco Ryans is the coach of the year, the job he's done. Offensive rookie of the year, how could it not be CJ Stroud? Puka Nacua got off to the incredible start, and Bijan Robinson's a hell of a player. But CJ Stroud, my God, he's the offense. He's eliminated the competition. Defensive rookie of the year, there's been a bunch of good ones. Jalen Carter got off to the best start early. Byron Young for the Rams has been really good. Will Anderson has been outstanding. Brian Branch from the Lions, the safety, has been good. But I'll go with the Seahawks corner, Devin Witherspoon. I think Witherspoon is a good, maybe as good a young corner as I've seen the last few years. So as far as defensive player of the year, man, it's probably either Myles Garrett or Max Crosby. That's probably what I would go with. Max Crosby's been incredible. Myles Garrett's just a little bit better. I probably lean towards Myles Garrett against Max Crosby. Offensive player of the year, A.J. Brown's been amazing. McCaffrey's been great. But, man, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's unstoppable. Absolutely unstoppable. Who's the MVP of the league? Mahomes has been great. Jalen Hurts has been great. Burrow's coming on. Maybe Burrow if he just continues to play great. But I'd have to go with Lamar. I'm going to go with Lamar. Leads the league in completion percentage, despite the fact he throws downfield at one of the highest rates of anybody in the league. He's averaging a league-high 10.2 yards per throw off the play action. He's been great. And as a runner, he's running for a league-high 48.9 yards per game. That's the most rushing yards of any quarterback. He's got 32 rushing first downs, second only to Hurts. The guy's absolutely been incredible. So I would say Lamar. Lamar's the MVP. All right. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Mojo Fantasy. Make sure you check that link in the description. Make sure you use the promo code Krug, K-R-U-E-G, and they'll match you up to $100 on your first deposit. Everybody who does it automatically enters into an ability on Thanksgiving night. We'll give away a Purdy and a Bosa jersey on Thanksgiving night after Niners Hawks. So looking forward to that. But a great week 9. Niners reclaim first place in the division. They get a week of rest. They add Chase Young. And suddenly the NFC looks just wide freaking open. I mean, seriously, you got the Eagles at 8-1, the Lions at 6-2. The Saints are starting to emerge in the NFC South at 5-4. Um, Dallas to me doesn't look elite. Seattle doesn't look elite. I really think the Niners are going to be able to handle Seattle the 2 times they get them this year, there and at Levi's. But it's the same cast of characters for the most part in the NFC. But Niners, Saints, Lions, Eagles, those look like the best teams. I mean, obviously the Eagles look like the best team right now. But then I would say it's the Niners, then Detroit, then probably the Saints, maybe Cowboys, but it's wide open. Seattle's in there in some way as well. AFC, Chiefs are 7-2, Jags are 6-2, Ravens are 7-2, Bengals are 5-3, but they're coming. Bengals are playing really good football. Dolphins are 6-3. Bills are now dropped to 5-4. So it's wide open. It's wide open in both conferences. Who's the best in each conference? If I had to say it today, I'd probably say Ravens and Eagles. Right now, Ravens and Eagles look like the best 2 teams coming out of week 9. All right, thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to all you guys. Thanks for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.